Hello all, welcome back to Time to Dice Character Creation, where we make your favorite original characters in Pathfinder Starfinder 2nd Edition. Today, we're taking a look back at the Guardians of the Galaxy with a build for Mantis. Mantis is most widely known for her role in the MCU, where she serves as an empath who grew up on a planet with only her father, before meeting and joining the Guardians of the Galaxy. But if we turn to her comic book history, things get a little bit more, varied. Not only does she gain additional powers, like controlling nearby plant life, but her backstory also includes training with the Kree to fulfill the role as the prophesized perfect human. She eventually becomes powerful enough to take on the Avengers, and later join them. Eventually, Mantis finds herself split into several ghostly versions of herself scattered across the galaxy, each being hunted down by Thanos. And finally, Mantis still wound up joining with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but this time as one of their founding members. So beware of spoilers, and without further ado, let's get started. So what do we need to make the Celestial Madonna? We're going to try and create an agglomeration of all the different versions of Mantis that we've seen. We'll start with MCU Mantis, the isolated empath who grew up with the job of essentially being a bottle of NyQuil for a planet. This gives us the empathic abilities that we'll use to form the base of the character. Next, we'll mix in comic book Mantis, the femme fatale prophesied to give birth to the child who would bring peace to the galaxy. This version adds her martial arts and plant manipulation abilities to the mix. And finally, we'll stir in a dash of Marvel Rivals Mantis, a healer who hands out speed boosts and damage buffs while holding her own in combat, giving us a smattering of support options that we need to make Mantis a truly versatile strategist. For our ancestry, technically comic book Mantis is just a mutated human, but we'll take any excuse to not add another human character to the channel, especially since the Lashunta are a way better fit anyway, matching both her psychic abilities and her physical appearance with the antenna. As a Lashunta, we start off with 6 hit points and a 25-foot movement speed. We'll hold off on assigning our attribute scores for the moment, since our heritage is going to shake that up a little bit. What we do get right away though is limited telepathy, which lets us communicate mentally with anyone within up to 30 feet. For our heritage, we're going to go with the Demaya Lashunta, granting us free training in diplomacy, perfect if we want to sweet talk the Silver Surfer. And it also comes with the additional lore skill feat, which means we pick a lore that auto scales as we level. We're going to go with Celestial lore, since it ties into Mantis' Wanderer of the Stars vibe, as well as her father being Ego in the MCU. But in your home game, feel free to choose whatever connects most with your campaign. The Demaya heritage gives us a boost to intelligence, but at the cost of a flawed constitution. So when we add that in to our ancestry boosts, that means that in total, we get a boost to intelligence, charisma, and dexterity with a flawed constitution. There isn't exactly a background for growing up on a planet that's also your dad, so instead, we're going to go with Martial Disciple, which actually works pretty well for most all versions of Mantis. This background gives us a boost to dexterity and wisdom, along with training in both acrobatics and warfare lore. Since we took acrobatics rather than athletics, we also get a catfall skill feat, making us way less worried about plummeting from ridiculous heights. At first, it lets us treat all falls as 10 feet shorter, but that scales as our acrobatic skill improves, to 25 feet shorter at expert, 50 feet at master, and then at legendary, we just ignore fall damage entirely. For our class, being in touch with the emotions of every living thing feels like a perfect excuse to go mystic to me. As a mystic, we start off trained in perception, fortitude, and reflex saves, and expert at will saves, which kind of makes sense since our empathic abilities help us in resisting enemy mental manipulation. For our skills, we'll be grabbing athletics for hopping around like a toddler who's had way too much caffeine, occultism since Mantis is firmly rooted in Marvel's cosmic and mystical side, thievery because when you're with the Guardians, not everything's on the up and up, and nature because controlling planets doesn't really help you much if you don't know about them. On the combat side, Mystic starts proficient with unarmed attacks, simple weapons, and light armor, meaning if we want to wade into the front lines, we'll definitely need to patch up some of our more martial abilities as we go along. Next up, let's break down Mantis' attributes. We'll start with strength at a +1. Whether that comes from being a half celestial or all that Kree training, Mantis is considered peak human in terms of raw muscle. Dexterity is sitting at +3, which fuels our martial arts and quick reflexes. Constitution is only at +0. We're not the most durable on any team, whether it be the Guardians or the Avengers. Intelligence is a +1, enough to know that abelisks eat batteries and not people. Wisdom comes in at a +3, because being an empath is all about reading people, whether they like it or not. And finally, Charisma lands at a +1. Mantis is definitely likable, but more than that crazy friend who tells wild stories that you love hearing, but you never want to be actually part of. Before we get into the meat of this build, I have to please the YouTube overlords real quick. If you're liking this video and want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the 2 videos that we put out every week. Sorry to take your time, now back to the video. As a first level mystic, the first thing we need to do is choose a connection, an attachment to a mystical force that grants us magic, Unfortunately, emotions isn't one of the offered options, so instead, we're going to go with rhythm, which works well mechanically, even if we have to do a bit of reflavoring for its abilities. This connection immediately gives us both training in the performance skill and access to our initial epiphany spell, Anthem, which affects all bonded creatures within 60 feet, granting them a +1 status bonus to attack rolls, damage rolls, and saving throws against effects that will leave them fascinated or confused. We're at our first spell, and we're already starting to replicate Mantis' allied inspiration ability from Marvel Rivals. Level 1 Mystics also gain a few core features: Mystic Bond, Vitality Network, and Transfer Vitality. Mystic Bond lets us pick up to 10 willing allies each day to become our bonded allies. While bonded, we always know their HP totals, conditions, and the general distance and directions to other bonded creatures. The Vitality Network is our personal and team healing resource, a pool of hit points equal to 6 plus 4 per level. This pool refills at a rate of 4 hit points per level in combat, and fully restores after 10 minutes of refocusing. We can also share that pool with ourselves, or bonded ally, within 60 feet with the Transfer Vitality action, which lets us drain up to 10 hit points from the pool to give to ourselves or an ally. The maximum amount we can transfer increases by 10 at levels 5, 10, 15, and 20. On top of that, our Rhythm connection adds little to this with a Harmony ability. Whenever we transfer Vitality to an ally, we can extend the duration of any active Rhythm Epiphany, like our Anthem spell, by 1 round. Got all that? Good, because we're not done. Now, let's talk spells. Starting with cantrips. Thanks to our Psychic Talent Ancestry feat, we get the Daze cantrip from the Occult spell list, letting us reach into a creature's mind that's up to 60 feet away, and deliver a Psychic Jolt, dealing mental damage with a basic will save. On a critical failure, the target breaks under our mental pressure, becoming stunned 1. The Rhythm connection gives us 1 free cantrip and spell of every rank, which is helpful, but not all of these spells perfectly fit Mantis. For example, the Summon Instrument spell lets us conjure a musical instrument from thin air, which doesn't really fit Mantis' style, so we'll skip it. Instead, we'll focus on spells that feel natural for our abilities. For animal and plant control, we've got Tame, letting us ease a domesticated animal's fears, improving its attitude towards us. Tangle Vine lets us lash a vine at an enemy with up to 30 feet away. A successful spell attack roll reduces their movement by 10 for a round, and a critical success completely immobilizes them. And the Bramblebush spell lets us make a thorny 5-foot cube of difficult terrain, dealing piercing damage to anyone in it with a basic reflex saving throw. Finally, Vitality Lash mimics Marvel Rivals Mantis Energy Blasts, channeling life energy at a target within 30 feet, dealing vitality damage, and, on a critical failure, making them enfeebled 1 until the start of our next turn. Just beware that unlike Marvel Rivals, because it's vitality damage, it won't really affect living creatures. For our rank 1 spells, Motivating Ringtone lets us put on one of Peter's songs for some battle music while we fight. We turn on an ally's comm unit within 120 feet. While the melody plays, the owner immediately regains 1d8 plus 4 hit points, and gains a plus 5 foot status bonus to all speeds, and a plus 1 bonus to all fear effects for a minute. We'll also pick up a bit more mental manipulation with the Fear and Charm spells. Fear lets us reach into the mind of a creature within 30 feet, sending a sudden surge of, fear. The target makes a will save. On a success, it's merely shaken, becoming frightened 1, but on a failure, it becomes frightened 2, and on a critical failure, it becomes frightened 3 and fleeing for a round. And Charm has the opposite effect. We speak and gesture with an almost hypnotic grace, targeting a creature within 30 feet. The creature must attempt a will save, with a plus 4 circumstance bonus if we or our allies have recently threatened or acted hostile toward it. On a critical success, the target resists completely and knows we tried to charm it. But on a success, it's unaffected, but believes our spell is harmless. On a failure, the target's attitude shifts to friendly, unless it was already friendly, in which case it becomes helpful, also becoming unable to take hostile actions towards us. And finally, on a critical failure, it automatically becomes helpful, and it's once again entirely unable to act against us. Finally, we get Verdant Sprout, letting us plant a single seed charged with primal energy, causing it to sprout on a surface within 30 feet, where it slowly sprouts into a medium plant. After 10 minutes, the plant becomes sturdy enough to provide standard cover, and its base becomes difficult terrain. An added benefit of this bush is it contains enough nutritious nuts or fruit to sustain 1 medium creature for a day. Okay, with all that out of the way, we finally move on to level 2. Thankfully, this won't be nearly as long as level 1. First up, we get Spot Healing, letting us react when a bonded ally takes damage by tossing them a healing flower, instantly transferring vitality to them as a reaction. And Quick Jump lets us make a high or long jump with a single action, no running start required. Level 3 Mystics get Group Chat, upgrading our telepathic range with our bonded allies to 120 feet, and letting us use the Network spell action to cast any of our spells from an ally space rather than our own. Also, we get Reflex Expertise, which, actually, I don't think I need to explain that one, and the Fleet General feat, giving us 5 more feet of movement on all of our strides. Oh, and we get access to rank 2 spells. Our connection spell, Noise Blast, is a blast of pure psychic energy. We hit a 10-foot burst within 30 feet, and every creature in that area makes a fortitude save against sonic damage. If they fail, they're deafened for a round, or for a full minute and stunned 1 on a crit fail. Not exactly subtle, but it is a lot of fun. Rank 2 doesn't add a ton to our mind tricks, but it really focuses on our plant abilities. Entangling Flora lets us reach out to every plant and fungus within a 20-foot burst within 120 feet, making them twist and surge to our will. The ground becomes difficult terrain, and at the start of each creature in the area's turn, they need a reflex save. If the target fails, their speed is dropped by 10 feet until they leave the area, but if they critically fail, they're immobilized for a round. Shape Wood is pretty simple, but neat. We can reach into a piece of unworked wood and shape up to 20 cubic feet into a rough form. It's crude, so no fine details or moving parts, but it's great for quick tools or creative uses. Then, there's One with Plants, which we can use to either merge into a plant or transform into one. While in a plant, we can't move or affect the outside world, but we can still cast spells that don't need a line of effect beyond the plant. Merge with plants lasts for 10 minutes, and we need a plant big enough to hold us and our stuff. While merged, we can hear but not see the outside world, and if the plant takes damage, we're shot out and take 10d6 points of damage. And if we turn to a plant, the spell lasts for 8 hours. We become a large plant, usually a tree, and blend in with the environment. Perception checks don't reveal us, though successful nature or survival checks against our spell DC shows that we're an oddly new plant in the area. At level 4, Mantis starts getting a little bit more devious with her abilities. We'll pick up the Mental Interference class feat, letting us link a target's mind to our bond to give them a brief, confusing glimpse of our connection. We make a performance check against the target's will DC to temporarily disrupt their focus. On a critical success, the target takes a -1 to attack rolls and a -2 to will save for a minute, but the effect ends early if the target uses a single action with the concentrate trait, or if we hit them with a hostile action. On a regular success, the penalties are similar, but the will save penalty drops to a -1. And of course, if we critically fail, the spell backfires, leaving us off guard against the target's next attack until the end of our next turn. We also grab the Die for Cover skill feat. When you're rolling with the Guardians, any situation can turn into a personal shootout at any given moment. With a single action, this feat lets us leap, land prone, and immediately take cover, giving us protection against ranged attacks while staying mobile, if a bit dramatic. Level 5 Mystics gain Fortitude Expertise, and can pick up the Ancestry feat Sensitive Antenna, making our already delicate antenna even more attuned to psychic vibrations. This gives us Thought Sense to let us detect thinking creatures within 30 feet. Non-thinking creatures, or those immune to psychic and mental attacks, remain invisible to our psychic radar, meaning I'm not sure if Drax would show up. At level 9, this becomes an imprecise sense, letting us track thoughts to a 5-foot area, but not precisely enough to target them without concealment. We also get rank 3 spells at this level. Hypnotize is our connection spell. It creates a shimmering, floating cloud of mental energy within 120 feet that can dazzle anyone who enters it. Targets must take a will save when the cloud is cast, when they enter the area, at the end of the turn, or if they interact with the area at all. Failing the save leaves them fascinated, or a critical failure makes them fascinated and unable to use reactions. The haste spell gives our allies a quick boost, granting them an extra action each round that they can use for striding or striking, keeping the team nimble and ready for action. Speak with Plants allows us to reach out mentally to any plant or fungi in the area, asking questions and receiving answers for up to an hour. Keep in mind though, this spell doesn't make plants any smarter or friendlier, so clever or sentient plants might give terse or evasive answers, while ordinary flora respond with simple or even silly remarks. And when the situation calls for defense, we get Wall of Thorns, letting us summon a massive thorny barrier up to 60 feet long, 10 feet high, and 5 feet thick. This wall provides cover, counts as difficult terrain, and damages anyone who tries to move through it. By level 6, we've invested pretty heavily into our empathic abilities, but it's time to bring our martial side into the spotlight. Taking the Monk dedication gives us a serious boost in combat. Our unarmed strike damage increases from D4s to D6s, and we can now ignore the non-lethal trait on those strikes. I don't know if we're ready to take on the Black Panther yet, but we're getting there. We also get Powerful Leap, adding 5 feet of horizontal movement to each of our jumps and leaps. Between our acrobatics, reflexes, and these enhanced strikes, we're starting to feel a little bit more like the nimble, unpredictable fighter that Mantis is truly meant to be, ready to jump into the fray while still supporting our allies with psychic influence when needed. Fast Recovery at level 7 lets us regain twice as many hit points from resting, and each time we succeed at a Fortitude save against an ongoing disease or poison, the stage drops by 2. On top of that, when we rest for the night, the severity of any drain condition we're suffering from drops by 2 instead of just 1, letting us bounce back faster and shrug off lingering conditions more effectively than ever. Level 7 also opens the door on rank 4 spells, which get a nice boost thanks to our newly acquired expert spellcasting proficiency. Our connection spell is Battle Sonata, letting us unleash a wave of dissonant sound in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a will save against sonic damage. On a failure, the target is deafened for a round, or deafened for a full minute and stunned 1 on a critical failure. We also gain genetic regeneration, letting us imbue a creature's body with a regenerative spark, gaining regeneration 7 temporarily. If the creature takes acid or fire damage, this effect is suspended until the end of its next turn. But this spell can also be used to regrow a damaged organ or reattach a severed once during the spell's duration, by using an interact action to position the organ correctly. Unfettered movement reflects our flighty nature. While the spell lasts, we ignore circus penalties to our speed, and whenever we try to escape from being immobilized, grabbed, or restrained, we automatically succeed unless the effect is magical and of a higher rank than our spell. Finally, Murderous Vine brings our plant controlling abilities to full force. We conjure a slithering, thorny vine to lash out a creature adjacent to that surface, pressing them against the wall or ground. On a hit, the target is grabbed, taking both bludgeoning and piercing damage, and at the end of its turn, if it's still held, it takes additional bludgeoning damage again. Both the vine's escape DC and AC are equal to our spell DC, and to destroy it, the target must deal 20 points of damage. Right now, Mantis' low durability means she doesn't want to be anywhere near the front lines. That changes to level 8, as the Monk Resiliency class feat means that every archetype feat we take from the Monk archetype also gives us 3 additional maximum hit points, a small but steady increase that will make us a lot tougher in the long run. We also pick up the Kip Up skill feat, letting us stand up from prone as a free action without provoking reactions at the start of our turn. Between our enhanced mobility, jumps, and acrobatics, this makes us incredibly difficult to pin down in combat. We can tumble, land, and spring back to our feet with a single fluid motion, very much in line with Mantis' agile fighting style. Level 9 Mystics get Resilient Soul, increasing will saves to Master, and every successful will save is upgraded to a critical success, as well as the Ancestry feat, Psychic Mastery, giving us a second rank spell from the occult list as an innate spell that we can use once per day, like Laughing Fit, where we reach into a target's mind and trigger a wave of uncontrollable laughter. The target must make a will save. On a regular success, the target starts giggling and is unable to use reactions. A failure slows them 1 while keeping them reactionless, and a critical failure knocks them prone for a round while the laughter continues, leaving them utterly helpless. This fits Mantis' empathic abilities perfectly, even if it's not as strong as the other spells we get this level. Spells like our concentration spell, Synaptic Pulse, where we unleash a pulsing mental blast in a 30-foot radius, striking the minds of all the enemies nearby. Every target must attempt a will save. Even on a success, they're stunned 1, but on a failure, they're stunned 2, and a critical failure leaves them stunned for a full round, completely overwhelmed by our powerful psychic energy. With Nature's Pathway, we can step into a living tree large enough to hold us, and instantly teleport to any other similarly sized tree within 5 miles. As we enter the first tree, we sense the rough locations of other trees and can choose our exit point freely. Plant Form lets us construct a new body entirely out of vegetation, choosing a battle form that grants us AC of 19 plus our level, 12 temporary hit points, resistance 10 to poison, low light vision, and specialized unarmed attacks. Our base attack modifier with its attacks is plus 17, and the damage bonus is plus 11. Finally, we use an athletics modifier of plus 19 unless our own personal modifier is higher. Each battle form has its own unique abilities. Our Boreal form gives us a 30-foot speed and a 15-foot reach branch attack that deals 2d10 bludgeoning damage, all while letting us speak. While Flytrap form slows us to 15-foot speed but gives us resistance 10 to acid and a 10-foot reach leaf attack that deals 2d8 piercing damage that can grab the target after a hit. Finally, Wave of Warning lets us project a hostile intent to one creature within 120 feet, which arcs to others nearby. The first target takes non-lethal mental damage and must make a will save. The psychic energy then jumps to another creature within 30 feet of the first, which continues to jump until we run out of creatures. On a critical success, the target's unaffected and our wave immediately ends. A success halves the damage, failure does full damage and inflicts Frightened 1, while a critical failure of course doubles the damage and applies Frightened 2. At level 10, we lean even further into our martial sides with Monk's Flurry, letting us unleash a rapid flurry of blows, making 2 one-armed strikes with a single action once every 1d4 rounds. If both attacks land on the same creature, we even get to combine the damage before applying resistances and weaknesses, hitting so fast and fluidly that it all feels like one devastating strike. For our skill feat, we'll pick up Rapid Mantle, making us incredibly nimble when it comes to climbing and scrambling around the battlefield. When we grab an edge, we can pull ourselves up and stand without breaking a sweat. And if we climb or leap within 5 feet of the top of an edge, we can pull ourselves up on the ledge as part of that action. At level 11, our Mystic training sharpens even further. We pick up Perception and Weapon Expertise, making us keener in spotting attacks and more effective at striking back against them, and the Die Hard feat, extending our maximum dying value to dying 5 instead of dying 4. This little buffer can easily be the difference between life and death if you find yourself on the front lines before you're ready. And of course, level 11 also brings us into the realm of 6th rank spells. First up, we get Vibrant Pattern, to create a dazzling pattern of hypnotic lights that fills a 10-foot burst within 120 feet, forcing any creature inside to make a will save. On a failure, they're blinded, stumbling helplessly against the glare, and on a critical failure, the effect lasts for a full minute, and their senses completely go out. Even once they escape the area, they'll keep rolling at the end of their turns until they shake it off. Then we have Rose's Thorns, where we call forth a thorn-covered rosebush thicket in a 20-foot radius. Anyone in the area, or foolish enough to end their turns there, takes piercing damage, with a critical failure causing bleed damage and even locking them into place until they break free. The terrain itself becomes both difficult and hazardous, punishing every square of movement within, and as long as we sustain the spell, the roses spread wider, expanding the radius by 5 feet each round. It's battlefield control at its finest, dangerous, relentless, and beautiful. We also get Tangling Creepers, covering an even wider area, 40 feet this time, choking the ground, walls, and even water with dense vines. Any creature moving through has a speed slashed by 5, and once per round, we can animate a vine to lash out anywhere in the area, dragging targets in and holding them immobilized until they manage to escape. It's less about the damage here and more about locking enemies exactly where we want them. And finally, Nature's Reprisal, an overwhelming call to every plant in the area to rise up against their foes. This time, we feel an 80-foot burst. All plant life becomes hostile, transforming the terrain into a shifting nightmare. To enemies, it's difficult terrain, and naturally difficult terrain turns into greater difficult terrain that's also hazardous. Every square they move through lashes out, dealing poisoning damage. At level 12, our training sharpens with basic kata, unlocking the Stunning Blows technique. Now, whenever we land an attack during our flurry of blows, our enemy has to make a fortitude save against their class CC. On a failure, they're stunned 1, and on a critical failure, they're stunned 3, giving us a huge edge in controlling the fight. To complement that, we pick up the wall jump skill feat, letting us turn momentum into mobility, leaping off of one wall to spring toward another without losing any height. If we finish a high jump, long jump, or leap next to a wall, we don't fall as long as our next action is another jump. Even better, we condense the high jump or long jump into a single action, skipping the usual stride. Normally, we can only pull this trick off once per turn, but once we reach Legendary in Athletics, we can chain wall jumps together as many times as their action economy will allow. At level 13, our defenses get a solid boost with Armor Expertise, making us that much harder to take down. And on top of that, we get Guarded Thoughts. This Ancestry feat keeps our own tricks from being turned against us. Thanks to our psychic training, our mind is shielded from intrusion. Anyone trying to read our thoughts or pry out information has to succeed at a counteract check against their spell DC. For our 7th rank spells, we can access the Howl, letting us unleash a powerful wave of sound that doesn't just damage our enemies, it tries to force them to join in. Every creature that can hear us within 30 feet takes sonic damage and persistent mental damage, with a will save to resist. If even one creature fails and starts howling, that mental damage only ramps up, spreading like a psychic chain reaction. While caught in the Howl, creatures can't use auditory actions or cast spells without the subtle trait. Balancing that chaos, we also learn Regenerate. It's a simpler spell, but brutally effective. We flood a creature with vital energy, giving them Regeneration 15 for a full minute. If the target takes acid or fire damage, its healing shutdowns briefly, but as long as the spell runs, the target can not only restore hit points, it can also regrow organs, and even allows reattachment of severed limbs with just an action. Unlike the earlier spell Genetic Regeneration, this one doesn't need to be sustained, though it can't be used on the undead, meaning between the two, we've got options whether we're healing living allies or patching up our stranger allies. At this point, we've run through the last of our higher ranking spells that really fit Mantis' team, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we can use those extra spell slots to double down on our favorites, whether that's filling out with lower ranked spells like Elysian Whimsy, or relearning old standbys for a kind of pseudo-signature spell list. Level 14 lets us do what we do best, or at least if you consider what Mantis does best, jumping. We gain the class feat Advanced Kata to grab Dancing Leap from the monk list. Whenever we leap or pull off a high or long jump, we tack on an extra 5 feet of distance, soaring just a little further than anyone expects. On top of that, when it comes to falling, we don't count any distance that we fall while adjacent to a wall. Though, once we're legendary in acrobatics, Catfall will make fall damage a complete non-issue, but I'm sure that's miles away. To keep up with the theme of mobility, we're also going to grab Quick Climb as our skill feat. With it, climbing stops being a slog. Every successful climb check we make pushes us 5 feet further, and a critical success lets us scramble up an extra 10 feet. And once we reach legendary in athletics, this feat upgrades to a full package, giving us a climb speed equal to our normal speed, so we can run up walls, vault off ledges, and glide from jump to jump, turning battlefields into jungle gyms. Our Mystic side steps up at level 15 with Master Spellcaster, boosting our spellcasting proficiency to Master, making all of our spells hit that much harder. We also pick up the Canny Acumen feat. Right now, this is mostly a placeholder, but at level 17, it will kick in to boost our reflex saves to Master, keeping us slippery and hard to pin down. For our 8th rank spells, we're looking at Uncontrollable Dance, which is almost too perfect to ignore. We reach the mind of a target and overwhelm them with an irresistible urge to dance. While under the effects of the spell, the target is completely off guard, gets no reactions, and the only move action they can take is to spend their actions dancing. A normal success has the target dancing for 3 rounds, using at least one action each turn to move to the beat. If the target fails the spell, it lasts for a full minute, and they have to spend 2 actions each turn. And on a critical failure, the target is locked in to a full-on dance frenzy. For the entire minute, they must use every action they can to twirl, stomp, and spin helplessly. At this point, we're not just controlling hearts, we're controlling feet. At level 16, we unlock one of the most flavorful support tricks in our arsenal, Vitality Web. With this class feat, we manifest our psionic network as a shimmering web of vital energy, linking 2 of our bonded allies within 120 feet. Each ally gains fast healing 8, and the moment we cast, or the first time each round that we sustain the spell, both of them are flooded with 16 temporary hit points that last until the start of our next turn. On the mobility side, we also grab the Nimble Crawl skill feat. Normally, crawling requires us to be prone, leaving us off guard and extremely slow, but with this skill feat, we can remain fully protected and move up to our full speed. Most of the time, Kip Up will have us back on our feet in a flash, but Nimble Crawl ensures that we're never vulnerable even when using abilities to deliberately drop us prone, like dive for cover. At level 17, our empathic abilities take another leap forward with the Psychic Paragon Ancestry feat, granting us a 6th rank occult spell of our choice, and we're going to go with Sleep. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Why burn such a powerful slot on such a humble rank 1 spell? Well, the trick here is the Capacitation trait. If we actually want to land this against high-level targets, say someone like Thanos, we need to scale it to higher slots. Sleep fills a 5-foot burst with the Drowsy aura, forcing creatures in the area to make a will save or nod off. On a success, the target's just a little groggy, taking a -1 penalty on perception checks for a round, but on a failure, they drop unconscious for a full minute, and on a critical failure, they're out cold for a full hour. Sure, it's situational, but when it lands, it can absolutely swing a fight. But if you're just here for the high-level fireworks, don't worry, we've got those too. This level also unlocks our 9th rank spells, and the one that suits our need is Unfathomable Song. With this, we fill the air with an eerie, otherworldly notes that worm their way into the minds of up to 5 creatures within 120 feet. Each round we sustain the spell, they're forced to save again. On a failure, they roll for a random debuff. Maybe they're frightened, confused, or maybe they're stupefied or even blinded. Our speed really starts to shine at level 18 with the Monk's Moves class feat. Our base movement speed increases by 10 feet, as long as we're sticking to Mantis' style and not wearing armor. That extra mobility opens the door for some wild maneuvers, especially when paired with the Cloud Jump skill feat. Now, when we succeed at a long jump, we can triple the distance jumps. For our high jumps, we use the same numbers as our long jumps, just without the tripling. And, if we really want to push things, we can chain actions together, stacking on our speed to cover even greater distances with a single leap. It's an over-the-top, cinematic way to capture Mantis' agility, letting us dart across the battlefield, or more accurately straight over it, with a fluid, superhuman grace. Our spellcasting finally hits its peak at level 19 with the legendary Spellcaster feature, and our connection grants us perfect harmony. That means the first time each turn that we use Transfer Vitality, the ally who regains hit points can also stride as a free action, letting them reposition or close in while benefiting from healing. From our general feat, we get Numb to Death. The first time each day that we regain hit points while dying, we restore extra hit points equal to our level, and stand back up without gaining or increasing our wounded value. And to wrap up this level, we get the Transcendence feature, giving us a 10th rank spell of our choice. Unfortunately, none of the listed spells really fits Mantis, but Revival feels like the best thematic choice. It's both a continuation on our healing abilities and a subtle nod to the Marvel's Universe's revolving door of death. A burst of healing radiates from us, restoring 10d8 plus 40 hit points to all chosen living creatures within 30 feet. At the same time, any number of fallen allies we choose are temporarily brought back to life, as with the Raise Dead spell, but only with temporary hit points equal to the amount that we would have normally healed. When the temporary hit points run out, or when the spell's duration ends, they return to Death's Domain once more. And finally, at level 20, we close things out in style. Through Advanced Kata, we pick up the Sleeper Hold feat. This technique lets us strike at vital points in an enemy's nervous system, disrupting their body's functions. Instead of a normal grapple, we roll an athletics check with special effects. On a success, the target becomes Clumsy 1 until the end of its next turn. On a critical success, they fall unconscious for a full minute. although while staying upright and holding on to whatever they're holding in their hands. Between this and our arsenal of psychic spells, we now have multiple ways of putting foes to sleep, whether it's targeting their will saves or their fortitude saves. And to finish this build off, we'll take the Influence Nature skill feat. With time and patience, we can attune ourselves to the behavior of the local wildlife. The GM sets the difficulty and the time required, usually about 10 minutes due to our legendary nature proficiency. While we can't dictate the exact outcome, our influence might result in easier hunts, friendlier beasts, or even natural warning signs like birds going silent when danger approaches. And that brings our Mantis build to its natural close. From healing allies to bending nature itself to your will, we build a character who embodies adaptability, compassion, and a touch of control over life and death itself. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more Pathfinder Starfinder builds, and let us know in the comments which hero or villain you'd like to see next. But until next time, keep rolling high, and we'll catch you in the next one.